Hello and welcome. In today's session, we're going to break down the 7 dimensions of ABA. These dimensions are the backbone of applied behavior analysis and are critical not only for your BCBA exam, but also for your everyday practice as a behavior analyst. By understanding these dimensions, you'll be able to apply ABA principles more effectively. Let's dive right in. Applied behavior analysis is defined by 7 essential dimensions. These dimensions distinguish ABA as a scientific and effective approach for understanding and changing behavior. In this session, we'll explore each dimension, discuss why they matter, and how they are foundational for your BCBA exams. We'll also highlight practical applications to make sure you're ready to apply this knowledge in real-life settings. Now, let's take a closer look at what each of these dimensions involves. The 7 dimensions of ABA are behavioral, applied, technological, conceptually systematic, analytic, generality, and effective. Each dimension plays a critical role in ensuring that ABA practices are scientifically sound and socially relevant. Let's go into more detail about each one, starting with the behavioral dimension. The behavioral dimension focuses on the importance of observable behavior. In ABA, we only focus on behaviors that are directly observable and measurable. This is what distinguishes ABA from other approaches that may focus on mentalistic concepts like motivation or self-esteem. Instead, we track observable behaviors like how many steps a person takes or how accurately they complete a task. This dimension is crucial because it ensures that what we're analyzing and changing is visible and measurable. Next is the applied dimension. This dimension is all about the real-world significance of the behaviors we target. It ensures that ABA interventions focus on behaviors that matter in everyday life, like improving social skills or increasing independent living skills. ABA isn't just about academic or abstract behaviors, it's about making a practical impact on an individual's life. The behaviors we target should lead to improvements in daily functioning and overall quality of life. The technological dimension emphasizes that ABA interventions must be clearly described and replicable. This means that every intervention used in ABA should be explained in enough detail that any other trained behavior analyst can implement it consistently. This helps ensure standardization across different settings and environments, which is critical for maintaining reliability in ABA practices. In practice, this dimension helps ensure that your work is clear, systematic, and reproducible. Next, we have the conceptually systematic dimension, which requires that all ABA interventions are rooted in established behavioral principles. This dimension ensures that the strategies we use are not just random techniques, but are grounded in theory and scientific research. It's about using evidence-based strategies that are aligned with ABA's theoretical framework to ensure the scientific validity of interventions. The analytic dimension is crucial for establishing control over behavior. It's not enough to just implement interventions. We must also demonstrate that the changes we see are directly due to the intervention and not other factors. This is where data comes in. By collecting measurable data, we can show that behavior changes are attributable to the intervention and not just due to random fluctuations or other variables. This dimension emphasizes the importance of using objective evidence, not just anecdotal observations. Generality refers to the extent to which behavior change persists across different settings, people, and time. In ABA, we want to ensure that the skills learners acquire aren't just applicable in one setting, like a therapy room, but can be generalized to home, school, or community environments. Generalization also means that the behavior should be maintained over time, ensuring that the learner's new skills are not short-lived. Finally, the effective dimension ensures that the interventions we use are making a meaningful difference in a learner's life. The goal of every ABA intervention is to achieve real, measurable change that improves quality of life. This dimension emphasizes that we need to focus on impactful outcomes, whether it's reducing problem behaviors or increasing desired behaviors, and make sure these changes are sustainable and long-lasting. To recap, the 7 dimensions of ABA work together to ensure that ABA practices are scientifically rigorous and socially significant. These dimensions help guide all of ABA's interventions and ensure that the work we do is meaningful and effective. The 7 dimensions are behavioral, which focuses on observable actions; applied, which highlights real-world relevance; technological, which emphasizes on clear procedures; conceptually systematic, which has its root in theory; analytic, which focuses on demonstrated behavior change; generality, which suggests that behavior extends beyond the setting; effective, which emphasizes on real, impactful outcomes. These dimensions aren't just theoretical concepts, they are practical guidelines that shape effective behavior analysis. Understanding why these dimensions matter will improve your ability to apply ABA principles in real-world settings. They ensure that interventions are scientifically valid, socially relevant, and effective in improving a person's behavior and quality of life. On your BCBA exam, you'll encounter case studies where you will need to apply these 7 dimensions. You'll be asked to identify the dimensions in a scenario and evaluate interventions based on them. Each dimension can help you determine if an intervention is scientifically grounded, socially relevant, and having a measurable impact. Let's look at an example of how the behavioral dimension plays out in practice. Suppose we're teaching a child to follow instructions. We can observe and measure how many instructions the child follows during a session. The key here is that we are focusing on observable and measurable behavior, which in this case is the number of instructions followed, and using that data to evaluate progress. Now let's consider the applied dimension. Here, we're teaching a child social skills to improve their interactions with peers. This is an example of how we target behaviors that matter in real life. By teaching social skills, we are addressing behaviors that have direct relevance to the child's everyday life, improving their interactions with peers and enhancing their overall quality of life. Now, let's apply the technological dimension. Suppose we're teaching a student how to complete a multi-step math problem. The process is clearly documented with detailed steps that anyone could follow. This ensures that the intervention is replicable by other teachers or therapists, making the procedures consistent across settings. The conceptually systematic dimension ensures that interventions are grounded in ABA's theoretical framework. For example, if we use positive reinforcement to encourage a behavior, this intervention is rooted in the reinforcement principle, which is a core ABA concept. The strategies we use should be scientifically based, which ensures that our work is evidence-based and not based on arbitrary techniques. Now, for the analytic dimension, we measure data to demonstrate that the intervention is causing the behavior change. For example, if we are working on a behavior like task independence, we collect baseline data and track the learner's progress over time. This helps us demonstrate a clear relationship between the intervention and the observed behavior change. Let's consider generality. For example, after a child learns a social skill in therapy, we want to make sure that they can generalize the skill in other environments, like school or at home. Generalization is important because we want the behavior change to last beyond just one setting. Finally, the effective dimension. Let's say we implement an intervention to reduce aggressive behaviors. If we see a significant reduction in aggressive incidents over time and the learner's daily functioning improves, then we know the intervention is effective. The key here is ensuring that the intervention produces measurable and sustainable results. Now, how do you study these dimensions for your BCBA exam? Start by memorizing the definitions of each dimension. Create flashcards to reinforce the key concepts and practice identifying these dimensions in case studies. It's important to apply these dimensions to various scenarios to ensure you're comfortable using them in real-world contexts. Be sure to practice with mock exams to boost your confidence. On exam day, avoid these common traps, confusing similar definitions. For example, don't mix up behavioral with analytic. Misapplying dimensions. Be sure to apply the correct dimension to the right scenario. Overcomplicating answers. Focus on straightforward interpretations rather than adding unnecessary details. Here's a quick recap of the 7 dimensions. Understand and apply each dimension. Use data to evaluate interventions. Generalize to real-world settings. These are the core principles that guide ABA practice and will be essential for your exam success. That's it for today's review on the 7 dimensions of ABA. You now have the tools to ace your exam and apply ABA principles effectively. Make sure to practice with our free BCBA mock exam today and continue building your skills. You're on your way to becoming a certified BCBA.